Hi, I'm Kevin Sharp from Gemini Outdoors, and today we are going to be doing a theory of use series. I was going to do this in just one video. I am going to be discussing fixed blade knives, and I decided to kind of break it out into the different categories that I feel in my mind are relevant. As many of you know, I've done a theory of use video before on knives, which was very it was more of an overview. It wasn't as detailed as I'm going to get into this, and I'm doing something a little bit different today. I'm not using talking points, so I don't know if I'll start rambling. I hope not, but if I do, I'll try to get myself back on topic. But anyway, fixed blade knives, it really depends on the person on what kind of category you want to throw your knife into. Some people, will throw certain knives into certain categories and be like, well, this is the one, the one category that this knife fits in. And yet some other people they want to be what's called a one tool option, which is perfectly fine too. They look for that one perfect knife that can do everything that person wants it to do. And if you're one of those kinds of people, more power to you. I'm just not. I believe in multi-tool option. And what I usually do is especially with my fixed blades, I put them into certain categories. Those categories being survival blades, utility blades, bushcraft blades, and then tactical blades. In this video, I'm going to discuss the biggest and the baddest of the bunch right out of the gate, and that will be survival blades. To me, and the way and the criteria that makes up a survival blade to me is that it's got to have a blade of at least 7 inches, and it has got to be it's got to have the length of the blade to be able to chop wood, to be able to baton wood, and if in certain situations be able to defend your life. And a survival blade to me can't be a small blade. I know there's a lot of folks on YouTube who will say, you can take a Mora or take a very, a 5-inch blade knife and do everything with it. And to some varying degrees, you can, but you run the risk of breaking that blade, especially if you're batoning wood and stuff like that. And I know, you can go out there and you can find these little bitty pieces of wood to baton with, but sometimes, you might have to find a bigger log or whatever to baton through. So to me, a survival blade is pretty much going to have to be at least 7 to 9 inches long. It needs to be very strong. This is the Gerber Parang, and it needs to be tested before you even get out in the woods. I know a lot of people, I'm going to have a video on this too. There's a lot of people out there who will criticize you for going out and taking your blades out in the backyard and start beating on them back there. And to that I will counter this. Would you rather your blade break in the backyard, where all you got to do is run back inside if you have to get you something to drink, something to eat, or would you rather it happen out in the woods, out in the field, where you're miles away from anybody? I think there's a definite thing. I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but there's definitely a reason that you want to test these blades in, around the house before you take it deep into the field anywhere. To me, another criteria that the blade needs to have is what kind of steel is it. Basically, steels run in two categories. You have stainless steel, and then you have carbon steel. Both have their advantages, both have their disadvantages. Stainless steel, which is what the Parang is made out of, Has a tendency to, it doesn't hold its edge as good as carbon steel does. It wants to roll the edge sometimes, especially if you're batoning through some pretty thick wood. It has a tendency to chip more if you hit the ground with it, or if you hit a rock or something with it. Sometimes the blade will chip. A lot of that is on the user and where you choose to baton your wood with. If you don't take proper precautions, such as sometimes you can build you a little platform or something to baton with, to baton the wood on, and that will help to keep the chipping down to a minimum. The advantages to stainless steel is it's more rust resistant than carbon steel is. Carbon steel tends to rust, and stainless steel, if you do get rusting, it'll typically be surface rust, and it's something that you can just knock off with a little sanding paper or sanding block or whatever, and then you can hit it with a sharpening stone and all that. And so where you are in this country makes a big deal about what type of blade that you need to choose for yourself. Now, if you take care of your blades, if you're really hands-on maintenance to take care of your blades and stuff like that, it probably doesn't matter, because somebody who takes good care of their blades, who will throw some oil on your carbon steel blades and whatnot, it probably ain't going to be that big of an issue. Now, if you're staying out in the woods for a long period of time, it might make a big difference. So you might have to take a field care kit with you. To where stainless steel, you don't really have to worry about that as much. See, the K-bar heavy bowie knife is made out of carbon steel. I think it's 1085 carbon steel. It's a very strong steel. Most of the time you're not going to have any issues out of these knives if the heat treat's right. Most of the time when you have breaking issues, a lot of people want to label it on the brand real quick, and it's not that way. It's usually a heat treat issue. The heat treat guy came in and had the flu and doesn't feel like doing his job, and it happens, folks. Sometimes you get a bad batch of them. So, I mean, every one of these knives that I have on the table right now, with the exception of one, has a lifetime warranty on it. So if it does break, you can send it back and get your knife back, and then you can try it again. Like I said, that testing comes in real handy for that. But so far the two knives I've showed you, they have got lifetime guarantees on it, and I do believe that the M-Tech does too. This is a knife that is currently in testing right now. It's the M-Tech model MT92. And I've been batoning with it and putting this through its paces out in the backyard, and it's doing pretty good. I think that has a warranty on it too. But the main thing with any knife, and I've said this time and time again, is what you're using it for. If you're using the knife the way it is, it should handle wood fine. You should handle, especially survival blade, it should handle your wood processing just fine. And excuse me, there was a bug crawling on my camera for some reason, but it should handle wood processing just fine. It should be able to handle self-defense just fine. It should be able to it'll be a challenge, but you could process game with it. You could do things with it. I wouldn't want to with these bigger blades. They're just hard to get those precision cuts that you need, but it's possible to do it with. Survival blades are a very, very important tool when you go into the woods. In my opinion, it's one of the most important tools, and I just don't feel like the one tool option is viable for me, because anything can happen. And when you're in the woods, you can lose the sheath could fail, and before you know it, your lovely K-bar heavy bowie knife is laying on the ground somewhere, and you're like, where did it go? I know Chris from Prepared Mind had that happen to him. It could happen. Your blade could break. I mean, you could just be out there, batoning away, and then all of a sudden, ping, and your blade breaks on you. And you're like, what do you do now? Well, if you don't have a backup blade, you could be in trouble. So I always believe in having multiple tools. You know, and a survival blade, and having a good survival blade. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean a good survival blade doesn't have to cost you $250. This K-bar's perfectly fine, and it was just I think it was under $50. I don't think it is anymore. I think the prices went up on this. I think it's up to $50 now on Amazon. This was right at $50. And of course the M-Techs are like $20. So I mean, there's plenty of LBOs, low budget options out there. It's just a matter of looking for them, testing them. You know, I'm not saying just, you know, oh, well, you know, get on here and Kevin, you know, he tested the M-Tech. No, test your blade. I can only test this blade. All right, let me be clear about that. I can only test this blade, and so far it's holding up on me. I can only show you what I have, not every single M-Tech MT92 that is out there on the market. Like I said, the heat treat guy could have come in and had a bad day. He could be going through a divorce, his mind's not right, he could be sick and not heat treat it the right way, and you've got a bad batch of them. Always test your blades at home before you take them into the woods. Please, please do that. You know, like I said, I'm doing this without my talking points, so if I get a little bit distracted or I get a little bit off topic, please forgive me. It's just something I'm trying to be a little bit more spontaneous with my presentations of stuff. But like I said, another thing, if you don't have to abuse your blades, then don't. I see so many videos of guys out there that are doing unrealistic tests on these blades, and then they're wondering why their $50 heavy Bowie knife is breaking, like trying to pry, you know, a car door off or something like that. It makes no sense to me why you're doing that. Why, you know, I can understand if you have to do it. If you're in a situation where there's an emergency situation, you know, somebody's been in a wreck or whatnot, and you've got to pry, you know, that door is jammed and you need to pry it loose, and this, you know, this is all you got, then by all means, go ahead and save someone's life. I'm not saying that. But how many times do you think you may run into that situation? I mean, I think rarely you would run into that type of situation. And even then, you know, you may have another tool on you that is capable of doing the job. You know, I think I said it in the other video. Use the appropriate tool for the appropriate job, and always try to keep something on you. You know, to me, this is a valuable tool, and I do not want to break it if I don't have to, and I don't want to put that tool in danger of breaking. I think it was best said before, you always have to be careful how you position yourself in life. You know, I believe it was Richard Petty, and yeah, I'm a race fan, who said sometimes you just have to put yourself in a position to win and let things happen. The same thing can be said about any piece of gear. You just got to be careful what you put yourself in position to do. So like I said, if you have no choice and you just have to use that knife to do something, like, you know, pry something loose or try to lift something up with it, and it's going to save a person's life, please go ahead and do it. If the knife breaks, you know what, the knife breaks, big deal. It's not worth it's worth a human life to break a $50 knife, you know, if it's going to save someone. You know, I say go for it. I know I would. You know, but I'm just saying that if you have something else available to you to use, and I know sometimes you're not thinking in that kind of a way, you know, it's there, you use it, then use it. But just always remember, your survival blade is one of your most important tools out in the woods, and you don't want to break it, you don't want to abuse it, and you certainly don't want to do any kind of testing on it, to me anyway, that may result, especially with my budget, and I think that's where a lot of people out there, they're living on the same kind of budget I am, paycheck to paycheck. You can't afford to break a $250 knife, much less a $50 knife. So, you know, I always say be very careful and use the blade for what it's intended to do. And for me, a survival a survival blade is for wood processing, and the other one is self-defense out in the woods. If you have to defend your life against something, or somebody, and if you're using a knife, you're in a pretty dire situation, so you want it to be the biggest and baddest one that you can find. So that pretty much to me covers the survival blades. Like I said, I told you what I expect out of them. My main TLU for them is for wood processing. To be able to process some wood, whether that be for making a campfire, which is going to probably be your main one, and if you have to build a survival shelter out there, like a lean-to or something like that, you might have to cut down some different stuff, to make that kind of stuff with. But that's pretty much it. That's all I can really think of for this video, and we will be seeing you in the next few.